Good morning, everybody. We're honored to be part of this. Thank you for inviting us. At this time, we'll be doing the fire department final walkthrough where we pay our respects and final honors to Chief Figved. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you for attending the Celebration of Life ceremony for Steve. My name is Shane McCreary and I am the Chief of Staff at Mundelein High School. I'm here to share a few words about Steve's influence and assistance to make our district what it is today. Steve was a graduate of the 1967 class of Mundelein High School, and in 2018 he received the Distinguished Alumni Award. He was a founding member of the MHS Foundation, serving as its president for over a decade. Several of the hallmarks of Steve's leadership were the creation of the Teacher Material Scholarship. This scholarship provided financial assistance to teachers to provide enhancement and enrichment of materials, furniture, documents for students, so that they could expand their learning beyond what was traditionally in the curriculum. Some of those highlights include a lot of new technology, including 3D printers, and flexible seating options to take a traditional classroom that I think we're all familiar with and make it into a new space to enhance learning, allow for a greater student and teacher collaboration. Through Steve's leadership, the foundation also steered the vetting of all the school's scholarships, meeting and interviewing students and selecting them for monetary awards. Additionally, his relationship with the church that owned this building provided us the opportunity to purchase it and use it to not only enhance our student learning, but our community. My office is even located down the hall. One day, this building will be raised and the ground will be so valuable to the district to serve students in the future, be it through a cafeteria, a field house for additional sports. But it was his relationship that granted us the opportunity to afford this structure. Last night, Mundelein High School played Warren. I was at the game and I was informed that Steve was a fixture at all the football games, making the scenic drive from Joliet to Mundelein and back every Friday night. And I overheard someone say that Steve possibly attended more football games than the goalposts. Steve's leadership, personality, and genuine care for the students and staff of this district is greatly appreciated. And his presence, his personality will be greatly missed. Thank Thank you.
Good afternoon. Back in the day. So, my name is Bob Zamore, and I'm the retired fire chief of the Libertyville Fire Department. But back in the day, just about 50 years ago, I was a volunteer at the Countryside Fire Station just down the road on Midlothian. And I heard that Libertyville was posting for a full-time position. I applied. And that's when I met Steve Figved. Now, I got the job, but I was the first guy to come from the outside the volunteer department. Libertyville only had about 4 full-time members, and about 30 volunteers. And there were a lot of volunteers that wanted to be where I was at, including Steve. And some of them made it kind of clear that, they weren't too happy. Now, that worked out over the time because firemen are firemen and we're all brothers. But during that rough patch, Steve was there and he took me under his wing and he taught me about Libertyville ways and Libertyville traditions and made me feel part of his family. He invited my wife and I over to his house, and I made a career of 33 years, and I owe a lot of it to Steve Figved. But there's a story that I'd like to share with you that to me says something about the man, and I think you'll hear it repeated from others today. But back in the day, Steve wasn't really fond of climbing ladders or heights. That's a tough nut for a fireman. All right? That's hard. But Steve would do it. And I remember we had a tradition in Libertyville. We were one of 2 departments in the United States that had an American LaFrance snorkel, or articulating boom. It would go up 90 feet, no ladder. It was called taking the elevator. But at 90 feet, you could see the skyline of Chicago. And every Saturday, because there were only 2 of them, and they were having some technical issues, which was real encouraging to us recruits. We had to run it up 90 feet, swing it around in the wind, put it back to bed. Well, we had a captain on our shift that was called, to his face, Captain Badass. And Captain Badass, back then we didn't have video training and we didn't have classroom training. We did everything on the job. We were kind of like apprentices. And one of the things we had to learn is, since this wasn't the most reliable piece of equipment, we had to learn to get down because, again, no ladder went up 90 feet, and there was going to be nobody there to help you. So Steve Fig, as we called him, was up there one Saturday morning, and Captain Badass took a bucket about 24 inches in diameter, full of about 100 foot of rope, and he dropped that bucket over the side, and that rope peeled out until you heard the bucket hit that ground just like a pumpkin. It sent a shiver through your spine. And he goes to Fig, get down. And we had pompier belts. We didn't have figure eights and all the climbing equipment the climbers had. And you had to spin it right or else it would come undone. And there was all sorts of other things. Nobody liked it. And I know as many times as we did it, it was never what you'd call fun. But for Fig, it was particularly difficult. And I know guys who would quit right there after they got him done. And I know guys that would take Saturdays off to avoid doing that job. But Steve toughed it out. And the reason he toughed it out is because the rest of the Saturday, back in the day, we'd have kind of a half day. And you could do your thing. And Steve's thing was public education. And he talked my boss into buying 6 Kodak carousel projectors, each holding 80 slides. And if I remember my math, it's like 480 pictures. And a little black box with a keyboard would allow him to coordinate each of those pictures onto an 8 by 8 foot screen and create a multimedia program long before there were computers, long before there was any of the mice and easy things of clicking and dragging. And Fig would spend his Saturdays, not just during the day, but well into the evening. And his productions were designed to prevent fires and to prevent burns. He would get firemen to stop and pause watching his program. They were that impactful. So my lesson from Steve early on, and the one I think I heard repeated over the years of his career, was that to get to the prize, sometimes you have to put up with the hardships. And he did that for as long as I knew him. He did that till the day he died. And I will miss him, but I'm glad I got to work with him. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to not wear my mask with my glasses because they tend to fog up. I haven't figured out how to do that. At the same time, my name is Len Grant. I'm with the Barrington Fire Department. Chief Figved came to us. We didn't call him Fig. We called him a few other things. But we didn't call him Fig. First of all, the Barrington Fire Department expresses our sincere condolences to the Figved family, and we grieve the passing of Stephen Allen Figved. Chief John Christian couldn't be here today, but I know he's talked to the family. Chief Figved was Barrington's first full-time Barrington Fire Department, hired from outside. And he started his administration in Barrington in 1984, and then eventually was hired by Bartlett in 1994. During those years, we observed his family evolving and maturing, just as the family of firefighters and paramedics that he managed were becoming more efficient and developing during his leadership. The constant challenges of staffing, dealing with politics, budgets, firefighters versus paramedics, seemed insurmountable. But Chief Figved never lost sight of the number one goal. He was steadfast in providing efficient and effective emergency service to the citizens of Barrington. From June of 1898 and to the day Chief Figved arrived, the Barrington Fire Department was consisted mainly of community residents and always voted for their fire chiefs and their directors. And when he came on board, this was a threat to tradition. The membership was very territorial and extremely apprehensive. In addition, newspaper headlines. The biggest political Donnybrook in years involves the fire department and village manager. Fire department wants a hand in hiring paramedics. Paramedics, firemen split. Fire duties for paramedics not allowed. Chief Figved accepted these challenges and proceeded to manage the full-time paramedics and work and cooperate with the paid-on-call firefighters in order to serve the emergency needs of the Barrington citizens. His mandate was to provide paramedic response with only enough full-time paramedics to handle the hours of 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. It was a daunting and difficult challenge because at 6 p.m. till 6 a.m., he had to depend on volunteer paramedics. I was a member of the volunteer paramedics before I was hired full-time, and in retrospect, you have to ask the question, what was Stephen Figved thinking when he accepted this position? Chief Figved was a big man with a big smile. He was affable, gregarious. He was articulate. He had a positive personality, and he won over many of the members and the staff. One day, I was finishing up daily duties and I stated I was going downstairs to exercise room. And I made the comment. I said, sometimes my body just cries out for exercise. And Chief Figved smiled and he said to me, I don't ever recall my body crying out for exercise. He had no problem with self-deprecation. It was one of his qualities that we loved. During the years of service, he hired additional paramedics, initiated fire safety education, inspections, installed the grid signs in the rural areas of the fire district, upgraded equipment, and communicated to the village and to the politicians that we needed full-time firefighters. The village trustees voted to transfer the full-time paramedics to downstate firefighters a year after he left. This was a major transformation for Barrington, and it was because of the groundwork that he set in place. There's a poem that many of you have probably heard, The Dash, which represents that we're all brought into this world on a certain date, and we all leave on a certain date, and there's a dash in between. And that dash represents what have we accomplished in our lives. Could we be trusted? Were we responsible for our actions? Were we fair in our dealings? Were we a good citizen? And very importantly, did we care about others? Chief Figved lived his life with all the above, and he definitely was a caring individual. The fact that we're here at the Mundelein High School campus, the fact that he was president of this foundation to help students really says it all. He was a loving and dedicated husband and father. He worked tirelessly to make communities safe wherever he was in command. He was a mentor and a teacher, inspiring students and firefighters to reach their goals, and the safety of fire personnel was a priority. Chief Stephen Allen Figved is the best example and representative of public emergency service personnel. We are all very fortunate that he was part of our lives. May he rest in peace.
My name is David Sudas. I'm with Bartlett Fire. In 1996, myself and 4 other individuals were hired. We were part of the second wave of new hires with Bartlett Fire District, at the time Bartlett Countryside Fire Protection District. I had an opportunity to be able to start a career because of him. He was part of the hiring process. He was the chief that was able to work with commissioners, and I am where I am today because of him. I've had an opportunity to see a lot of growth those handful of years that he was with us. We've seen a growth in administration, new purchases of equipment, and many other aspects of many things that the other individuals have mentioned today. From his professionalism to his personality, that is something I do recall, something that I will miss, and my condolences on behalf of the Bartlett Fire Protection District to your family. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming. Yeah, right.
There you go.
Okay. I have had so much of an outpouring in the last 2 weeks. It's humbling. Steve and I met in high school and didn't start out too good. He took me on my first date, went to Hackney's and Wheeling for hamburgers, and said he had to leave by 8 to go babysit. What really was true, he had another date. And I didn't really want to talk to him for several months, and he kept pushing, and over the years, we have 3 beautiful children, Kristen, Scott, and Ross. Ross passed away 2 years ago. Ross is back here doing sound engineering. And I have to tell you that my brain, during this whole last 2 weeks, I'd lose a shoe, I was looking for my phone, I was holding my phone. You won't believe what I've been going through. I have to thank the school, and I won't name them by names, they know who they are. But without the staff at the school, this would never have happened here in this building, and it meant so much to Steve to be here, so much in the last 10 years of his life that my daughter, Kristen, suggested that we come here, and they've never done this at the school, so I feel deeply honored that we are here today. On a personal note, you've heard a lot about Steve's professional ambitions and Steve, let's start with the TV remote. You know, every man has to have that TV remote in their hand. And Steve had it programmed, especially after he retired. He knew what he was going to watch from morning until evening. He even had that he would get up when he wanted to, but he would lay there till 11 o'clock because he had to watch Price is Right, and Let's Make a Deal. And just recently, Let's Make a Deal was moved to the afternoon. He was very upset. How do I fill that time to relax? And I said, well, you could get up. So he loved watching TV. He was, in the end, becoming more disabled because of his diabetic foot problem. And he used a cane to walk and really preferred to use a walker when he went any place because his stability was deteriorating. But he loved Facebook and messaging. And because he watched TV and because he didn't get up and do exercises, as we know, the other image I have of Steve is falling asleep with his finger on his phone. I don't know why the phone didn't just keep making noises or anything, but he says, I'm just resting my eyes, but you could hear him snoring. Steve was a project manager. His resume is filled with all this type of management roles in any way, all different forms. He was very involved in the last 2 years after Scott passed in remodeling our house, and since he loved his phone so much, he did all the research on the phone, not on his computer, but on his phone. And amazing technology that we have today made that possible. And he bought the coolest bathroom fixtures in the kitchen, and Tim Tuffy was our right-hand man. He's on the Barrington Fire Department, and he's almost become my brother to help me get through all this for the final of our selling of our house, which will be probably next week. Then that sign will go up. We have a house in Albuquerque that we just bought, and we spent 5 weeks there. Didn't want to leave, it was so beautiful, even in the heat of the summer. And we did come back, and we're planning to go there for the winters. And so I'll honor him that. I'll go back and I'll enjoy it. His brother Rick is still living there in Rio Rancho, and we'll still have family there. The man I loved was a man full of love. Love for me, love for friends, and love for his community. Mother Teresa said, God does not command that we do great things, only little things with great love. That was Steve. Steve touched lives, helped console many of them in time of need. It wasn't just the managing of the departments, it was the people he worked with, the people that worked for him. One coworker said in her letter to me that she always had the tools she needed for her job. A wife of a board member stated Steve took the time to drive her to Oak Brook when her husband got his hand stuck in a snowblower. Another said Steve was there when I needed a friend the most, just to listen to me. That was Steve. I could go on, but I best summarize his life stating that the happiness in life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Steve's thoughts were always the care of others. It shows in his professional resume and his career. Steve wasn't a handyman, didn't like climb ladders, right? However, he provided well for us. His love is what I will always remember, not just for me, but for everyone in his life. The bookmark we have provided has the dash poem that Len spoke about, and he's fulfilled both at every part of that dash. It matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spread our dash. Thank you.
So many of you guys got to already know me, and some have talked through messages and on the phone, and some will meet me for the first time today. I'm Kristen. Dad spelled it with an E, Mom spelled it with an I, but the birth certificate had an I. Through these years, it was our biggest joke, and later Dad would say, Chris or Princess. I'm here today with my family, my 2 daughters, my son Nick, my soon-to-be son-in-law Noah, and my loving husband Tommy, along with my amazing family and friends and much more. I've always known my dad was an amazing person in general. I always looked at my parents as an amazing duo. I mean, who would not? They were high school sweethearts, married 52 years, and conquer everything as a great team. You and Mom have taught us, and as well as the grandkids, so much. In the last few weeks, I realized that Dad is not only perfect in my eyes, but many others, and I am so grateful for technology. I have learned more about Dad, Mom, and heard stories for over the years. I will hold each one close to my heart. When I was the age of Lindsay, Dad and I were sitting at my grandma's funeral, and he looked over at me and he said, you know, this is awfully sad. When I want a Dixieland band, a parade, and everyone sharing happy moments, smiling and laughing. I looked at him and shook my head. Well, Dad, this day is for you, a celebration of all your many adventures, loves, and so much more. So with that being said, I personally can stand up here for hours, and maybe even months, telling you stories and memories I have. But I'm gonna open it up and share for everyone else, so I tried to focus on key things that meant the most to me. So I have thought in my sleep, driving in the car, staring into space, trying to work in the last few weeks, I decided to focus on a celebration for Dad. So Dad, I prepared a surprise for you. Just of you always found special gifts for all occasions, for all you know. Whether a text, a special gift, GIF geared just to that person, a t-shirt of saying something the kids repeated daily, I did it, or perfect. I have a gift for your celebration. It is a gift for both of us. But before I tell you my full surprise, I think it's in this bag. I couldn't drive up here with lemon bars or a chocolate cake. It was a little warm. 18 hours in the car, it would have been a little stale too. But I did, after going to 8 different stores at Halloween time, find a bag of orange slices that we will share tonight. It's not my favorite candy, but every Christmas, every birthday, I had found the most sneakiest way to gift it to you. Whether it was in takeout boxes from Chili's, pizza boxes, or finding a pair of new socks to stick them into. You always got your orange slices, so we will share these later for you. For my next surprise, technology, I've had the pleasure of meeting your second cousin in Norway, Merritt. She called me the other day and after I had sent her a friend request. I had one phrase I wanted to learn. and that is I love you. She told me it was a very complicated language to learn, but said I was a natural. I said it's because Dad has taught me so much about the Norwegian heritage. It's something I want to do. So Dad, I have to say, jeg elsker deg, I love you. I even took one more step and went on the internet, just as you would do, and I searched, and I will wear this shirt many a times and hold it close to my heart. Jeg elsker deg. So now for the memories. Let's talk about Christmas. Always a special time of year. We would celebrate Grandma and Aunt Wendy's birthdays, and then we'd go, and being part of the fire department family, you were pulled from your own family on several occasions. On the years you had to work Christmas Day, we would go to church service, and driving home, even in the very cold, frigid Chicago air, you would have us manually, not automatically, roll down the windows to crack and tell us to listen and look for Santa and his sleigh. You told us that you had talked to Santa and told him that you had to work and needed to celebrate early. I never could find those or hear those bells, but the magic was always walking in the door and seeing every Christmas present wrapped under the tree. As I've gotten older, I hear those sleigh bells and think of you, the true magic of Christmas. The grandkids have been blessed with your Christmas magic as well. Our Christmas Eve Santa calls that you reminded us would be happening, and no matter where we were, the call would come in. And again, always a perfect gift towards everyone's personality or current interest. I looked forward to seeing how you were going to top the next year, as you always did. The girls racing home on Halloween night and dumping their candy on the living room floor, sorting candies by each brand and flavor, and calling you and Mom to tell you the top candy of the year so you could get your kiddos in the neighborhood the following year. You were always surprised when one would say they got a full Hershey bar or even money. Being involved, the distance of 17 hours apart has been hard. I knew raising kids without you and Mom at each event would be hard. But again, with technology, you were a success. It felt like you were at every event. Through text messages, phone calls, while performing, sending the videos and chatting, and you always knew what was going on and were always one step ahead of me as far as their fundraisers, events, and even the score of the Allen football games. Sometimes you knew the score before we could even know. Most everyone knows that you were the kids' #1 fan and supporter. Not too many Allen Eagle fans can say that their dad would miss or be late for a meeting in Mundelein to listen to the old coach to hear play-by-play, and who knows how many times Nick ran the field at touchdowns or how many the Talonets performed at halftime. You always amazed me and loved how we talked and shared photos back and forth. Again, thank goodness for technology. It made the distance feel so much shorter. Every project I did for the kids and team activities was cheered on by you and Mom. And oh, I cannot thank you enough for being as creative as you are. When stumped, I would call and say, okay, here's my idea, and I'm stuck. And for the next few days, my emails and my texts and my phone would be going crazy. He had a solution. Tommy and I have driven and explored with the kids, and it never failed. I would let Dad know we were leaving and at what time. About lunchtime, he would say, okay, you should be right about here. I said, no, we passed that about an hour ago, and he'd say, geez, you guys drive fast. He said, okay, hold on, I'll call you right back. He'd say, okay, if you exit this exit, there's a famous ice cream place or hamburger place, a road to go see. I know the kids never understood why we went off the beaten path, but we sure had some really good treats, like the Route 66 frozen ice and so much more. Thanks, Dad. I've always been called your princess, but I will be the first to admit I was not always perfect. I have had my flaws, and you still thought of me highly. When I struggled, you would be the perfect calming words and try to help find answers to all my questions. I miss those talks, Dad. But you better keep an ear open, because I continue to talk and look for those talk to you just for signs to guide me. Some I smile and say, that's my dad. My biggest flaw was lining up after my driver's test and leaving the stick shift Honda in neutral and going in so excited, getting my picture taken, and coming out to see I left the car in neutral and did not put the emergency brake on. It luckily was January and the ground was frozen but starting to thaw a little mushy. The twiggy tree held it up as we came out and held it from rolling into the pond. Due to the mush, all the attempts to, as my dad would say, rock it back and forth and get the HE double hockey sticks out of here. I burnt the clutch, and boy did it stink. But Dad was to the rescue. He made a phone call, and to my embarrassment, I did not realize that Dad had called the Schaumburg Fire Department at the end of the road, and to make my day better, the truck he had asked for and they sent was indeed engine number 1. The biggest hook and ladder I ever saw, through tears in my eyes, hiding on the other seat. I luckily did not get my driver's license taken away and learned a very valuable lesson to put the emergency brake on and never leave the car in neutral. We made it across, I believe, it's been a while, I think it was 6 lanes of traffic on Gulf Road, 1 mile per hour, cars honking and yelling and people screaming. Get across, and he says, okay, now get it up the hill. I said, Dad, there's not a clutch. All right, we got out and we pushed it up the hill. As I'm older, those hills don't seem quite as big, but that day that hill felt enormous and I didn't know what to do. We got it up there, so not once did he yell, but the silence was a lesson well learned. So there are many more things I can share, but I'm going to write those in a journal and share them with my kids so that they can share them to their children in later dates. But I'm always reminded how special my dad was to me, as my dad would always end a speech or a text, hugs. I will always embrace those special hugs and back rubs. He's not gone, and he will be talked of daily and always on my mind. And again, yay, Oscar Day. I love you. You 3 want to come up?
We'll always remember that special smile, that caring heart, that warm embrace you always gave us.
You being there for Grandma and us through good and bad times, no matter what.
We'll always remember you, Grandpa, because there will never be another one to replace you in our hearts and the love we will always have for you. Grandpa, as you ended every message, hugs.
We stood on the phone for countless hours waiting for that word of, he's all okay. But that's not the reality. Just a few weeks ago, we were thinking about, what are we going to do? Well, this is how it turned out to be. All of us together in a room, enjoying each other's smiles, hugs, back scratches, rubs. Although we miss him, I want y'all to know that he will be okay. He is all in our hearts, and he is not that far. As you may know, that he's probably in the room. He would always end his kind paragraphs in hugs. I could feel those warm tight hugs.
Uh-oh. We lost it. Can you blow it up? Okay, where are you at?
All hugs by Grandpa. I love you.
Okay. Good job, babe. At this time, we know we have a couple friends and that wanted to come up and speak. We'd like to open up the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Aguilar. I am a board member of the Mundelein High School Foundation, and Steve was our leader. And I'm standing here with other board members today. And Marcia, to my left, was one of the original founding members with Steve and myself for the Mundelein High School 50th Foundation meeting, and we were lucky to grab the folks to my right. We didn't line up this way on purpose. But Ellie, Lisa, and Danielle are with as well, and we have others on our board that could not make it today. After hearing everything this morning, we saw everything in the foundation that he brought in his work life, his home life, and it is exact. I didn't see any changes. And he loved his kids, he loved his grandkids. We often spoke of them first before every meeting, by the way. So it was a pleasure meeting all of you today as well, and quite impressive. You folks are. I'll give you some history. When we started the 50th Foundation, I had an idea back in 2009, primarily because I graduated in 1977 and we liked a little party. So if there was a party involved, we wanted to have that happen. So I approached the school. Of course, I was coming up to the high school knowing that I'm meeting with the principal, and that's not a good thing. So I did get a little nervous, but I approached the principal then, and then got to speak to Jody Ware, who was the superintendent. I said, "Are you interested in having a 50th?" She goes, "Yeah, sure we are. What was your idea?" And I said, "Well, we have a number of ideas and plans, but I'd like to get a committee together, and it'll take us a couple years to do this. So we'll get some running room and get this thing launched." And so we put on a couple feelers, put some things on social media, and we had a meeting set. Had no idea who would show up. I decided to get there like 2 hours early. I live in St. Charles, Illinois, so I drove up early. I get to the room. Steve's already there. I get introduced to Steve technically for the first time, and he already had a list this long of things that he wanted to do. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is a gift." And since that time, he has carried us through the last 10 years. Some will say, "You've got the same president, and we wouldn't want it any different." He was that kind of a leader. We wanted him there and to lead us. So I hear a lot of fire stories today. I mentioned we were a spark and he was the flame. We could operate independently and all we were was a spark. But he kept things going and always had an agenda beyond our agenda. And sometimes we were a little fearful of commenting on things we'd like to do because we knew there was some homework involved, and he had a list already in his head on what we needed to do. And oddly enough, Deb, I think a lot of that stems from you and your togetherness. I think combined, you were a dangerous crew because everything was covered. I often learned over time that, of course, we were the class of 77. We thought we had the best class. But behind the scenes, I know there's a few others that think theirs, but behind the scenes, the class of 67 was the poster for what a class should be like. Caring, giving, always interested in what others were doing, and we would always ask for information. We felt like we were the small brother asking big brother what to do, and you were all there. The whole class was incredible to us. So when people ask me, how'd you get your crew together? I go, we just do what 67 does, and we follow their lead. So continue that in Steve's vision. And of course, the foundation itself. We merged with a number of organizations over the last 10 years. We created the Mundelein High School Foundation, and it's been a wonderful mission. And keep in mind, our whole goal was really to give back, really, to give back to the community, to give back to students. And this is a phenomenal school. I think when I was here, I didn't think so much of the school that way. I was just trying to get through and get out of Dodge, so to speak. But I think over time, I recognized what the school meant, and also in talking with others as we learned through the 50th celebration 10 years ago, after connecting to thousands of classmates covering all the span, there's a commonality. Your high school is the closest thing you will have to something that means something to you. Grade school, not so much. College, also not so much. I basically came off a 9-year excursion serving on my college alumni board, and I wanted to dovetail that into what we would do here. So I came with a little bit of a mission. Steve actually had a bigger mission, and Jody Ware asked me at the time, I think Steve would be a perfect recipe for someone to lead your organization. I said, of course, no problem whatsoever. And I learned an awful lot about everything that was mentioned here today. How he led organizations, how he did it with comfort, with passion, and with sincerity. And I think that has lent itself to all of people that he talked with. Other classmates over many decades of generations beyond, he was the best. I want to share with you a number of things that we've done. We've had, and they mean great memories to us here. Mustang Dine and Drive, oh my gosh, that was a great event. We had food that we cooked on premises right here behind us at the high school. We took orders early. People would tell us when they drove in what they ordered. We'd have people put stickers on the car, just like the fast food places. By the time they got up here, they had hot and ready food ready to go. If something would take an extra minute or so, we ushered them off to the side and quickly ran people back and forth to make sure they got meals. We got them for loved ones, we promoted it as get them for grandma or grandpa, get them for aunts and uncles, get them for family. You're coming home late, want to get a meal. It was good food. We only dabbled a little bit, but it was good. And it brought the community together as well. The season pass sales for the Athletic Association, that was a constant. Always come up with ideas of what we could do there to improve and get the word on what we were doing. The Queen of Hearts at Emils, always, they were up for anything we wanted to do. They would be willing. We had the Warm Your Hands issue with the Mundelein Pride scenario, so we had gloves that we gave out during the winter or sold during the winter, and that continued to go well. The golf outing, the STEM Explorer Scholarship for rising juniors, graduation banners, innovative classroom grants. We started off this as really a notion to give back to teachers. who were very special in our world. We wanted to give back to them so they wouldn't have to dip into their own pockets on an annual basis. We designed it as a grant exposure. I think the very first one we had 16 grants. Technically, we wanted to give them to everybody. We were that passionate about giving the award. And Steve always commented, after every little event we had, just one more scholarship, just one more. If we get $500, we can give one more scholarship away. That was kind of our mission. And that's what we reached for. VIP parking, alumni tours, parades. We were always there and always giving and always there to support others. And the stories can go on and on. It was absolutely an impressive run by Steve, and we hope we can continue to do that here in the future. If anybody else has anything to say, by all means, come up and say something. I only was told I had an hour, so I'm sure. But my last comment, I look for things to say in passing. I'm going to miss my friend the most. He meant a lot to us as people, first. He meant a lot to Mundelein High School. I thought I was passionate about this school. I learned a lot more from Steve, and he did it quietly, gently, and always with a welcome hand. I heard stories of him going here and there for people. It didn't stop. He would do this in our organization as well. So I will miss all that, and those are tough shoes to fill. And I urge everyone here, if you're at all interested in your own alma mater, your own school, think back, think of ways you can give back and participate. It doesn't take a whole lot to do, and it takes a myriad of people to make it all happen. So in closing, Deb, I wish all of you well. To the grandkids, you have a great grandfather, as I can tell, and I wish you all the best, and rest in peace, my friend.
He did. It was a privilege for us to be on the board with him. We will miss him, but we will do what we can do to keep in his honor and in his memory to keep it going, okay? Thank you. So sorry.
I just wanted to say, Debbie and to family, what a legacy Steve left in his leaving. His kindness, his gentleness, his desire to always find out how things went. He would remember if there was somebody that was sick, or there was somebody struggling, or something was happening, he would remember, and before our next meeting, he'd say, hey, Ellie, or whoever that was, how is it going with that person? How is that person that was sick? I had 2 uncles that passed last year. He would call and say, how is everything going? He always remembered, and I think that's one of the things that I will really take away more so deeper as a human being myself, to remember to be more thoughtful and more kind. And he had such a countenance about him. You know, it says a lot to say that you worked hard on your marriage, and the fruits of your labor and the loveliness of your relationship, and how much he loved you, Debbie. And not many people can say you're married so many years and that was really the love of your life, and that you had such a beautiful marriage and time together. And I think that will definitely be something, is my takeaway, is to step into something that you have an interest in, and see if it grows to a passion, and be of help. The little bit that we can do can help out so much to others. And what a blessing that is. I thank God for Steve, and a humble man he was. Wow, I didn't know all this about him. And he could have been boastful, bragful, such a humble and quiet and lovely human being. And I'm thankful that he was part of my life for the 4 or 5 years he was.
Hi, I'm Tom Getz, brother-in-law, my lovely sister. I remember meeting Steve when he drove into our driveway at, off of Diamond Lake at a Volvo, and I thought it was a cool car. And I said, oh, she picked a good one. You know? And so Steve and I talked about the car a lot. And then my dad came out, and my dad wasn't quite as fond of Steve. Dad was rather a protective individual. He pulled me aside and he says, what do you know about him? I said, I don't know anything about him, but he's got a cool car. You know, so Dad said, well, I don't think it'll go very far. Well, how many years later? And Dad loved Steve. And they were so close. They became so close in years. And I'm so privileged to be the brother-in-law that was able to share so close with Steve. And then many times, a lot of the conversations that you've been saying that, you know, people say Steve was humble and quiet, and yes, he was all about that. He never bragged. He never really expounded on the things that he was accomplishing. He said, well, I've been in government, I've done some things, I've helped the people. What do you need? How can I help you? Always had that gift of just sort of being quiet with his finger on his phone, looking for the next thing to serve for somebody, whether it was a birthday or a wedding or someone feeling bad. And Deb was telling me that now that she got into his phone, because there were so many messages coming through, she's carrying 2 phones. And she mentioned how her mind was getting crazy yesterday when we were at the hotel, and she said, oh, I lost my purse, my wallet, where's my wallet? And it was on her shoulder. She goes, oh my God, I've done so many things. What happens? You know, we bury ourselves into the grief and we get lost. Steve never got lost. Steve always had a vision. My sister was the organizer. My sister was the glue for him to be able to take all the ideas that he had and put it together and have an accomplishment. The two were such a strong team together. And the love, it's just a role model for me. I look out here at this gathering and Steve's celebration of life. It's a celebration of an individual. It is a joy. It is the happiness. The only sorrow we have is because we've lost him physically. Mentally, he's here with us, and hopefully he instills in us what he was about, especially in these times, especially in these rough times, the COVID, the hate, the violence. There's still joy, there's still love, there's still compassion, there's still family. And that's what we have to keep in mind. Steve was all about that. That was his cellular makeup. Every stitch of his body was to look out and help. I remember I was having a presentation I had to give. I did a lot of speaking for a while, and had a presentation. I was in my office, and I called my sister called me and said, hey, how you doing, Tom? And I said, oh man, I got a bitch of a presentation I got to do. And I said, I'm really stuck. Oh, we'll come. What? You'll really come? You'll help me with this PowerPoint presentation? Oh yeah, we'll come. And they just dropped everything, came down, helped me, and I had a really good talk the next day. It was tremendous. And then, not only that, when I was in Vietnam, Deb felt bad that I was missing out on so many things. So she and Steve put together this CD, and I don't even know if you remember this, but I still have it. And she put together little sounds of home. The toilet. I'm like, the toilet? Really, Deb? That was Steve's idea. Yeah, so it always kept me home. It is so so rewarding and so touching to look out amongst all of you that have taken the time in your own private lives and your busy schedules and what you have going on, that you have taken the time to show your respect, share your respects, your support, your friendships, and love for a man who is not only a son, a brother, a friend, a brother-in-law, a co-worker, a fireman, a Mundelein High School devotee, and a loving husband to my wonderful sister, Debbie. And a grandfather to wonderful grandchildren. Steve was all family. And there's not much more that I could say that you don't already know or haven't already learned what Steve was about. But I'm sure that we all have one very common thread running through our hearts at this moment. He will truly be missed. But he's not gone. Because the love and the memory of Steve is going to continue. The strength of that love will always be there. He's missed for so many reasons. He made us feel special. Always special. When he greeted us, it was, "Oh, hi, Tom." A real gentle hello. And I always felt like, hey, really digging into my calling. And I just didn't have anything to say. I just was calling. You know, and he'd say, "Yeah, well, let me get your sister." And I'd go, "Okay." Nice talking with him. And because she was the organizer, and when I was calling, we didn't talk that much. We would say, "Okay, well, what are we doing next? What are we getting together?" And I always look forward to that. He always accepted, never judged me being a rebel, having different situations in my life. He just said, "Hey, Tom, you're just different. You just do things your own way." Maybe that explains it, Jan, my lovely wife. He made us feel so special in even our private moments because he was so sincere, so gentle, so comforting. Always had a word of wisdom, always had a word of something to make you feel a little bit better, a little stronger. And Steve comes to mind when I visualize and personalize a saying I heard at a motivational seminar that I attended. It went like this: "People rarely remember what we say or what we do, but they never forget how they made us feel." Steve always made me feel that I was important and special. I always look forward to the next time that we could get together and share. I was impressed also how calm he remained under stressful situations. Something I wish I could do. German. Norwegian. Maybe there's something there, I don't know. Something I wish I could accomplish, and I worked at that. I've struggled with that. He was always eager to assist when others needed help. He was constantly searching on the internet for useful information pertinent to share with others or to make their day and experiences or their birthday unique to them. Always unique. And that's what I admired. He was able to get into a person, and what made me feel that I was special and everyone else was special, because he did know how to uniquely enter your world and share something that meant something to you. To quote Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, an 18th century writer, she wrote Frankenstein. There is but one solution to the intricate riddle of life: to improve ourselves and contribute to the happiness of others. Steve, you accomplished this. You accomplished this in your lifetime, and I will keep your memory alive in my heart and soul. I thank you for my life.
Very nice, Tom. Very nice remarks. Just in case any of you don't know, my name is Nicholas. I am the grandson of Grandpa and Grandma and the son of Kristen. And where do I even begin? Grandpa has just been a real inspiration. And his thoughtfulness and his caringness, his love, have played a lot. And he means a lot. And it was tough being all the way in Texas, where we couldn't be with him during his moments. But he's in a better place now. And even though I'm not related to him by blood or to Kristen and whatnot, I consider him a grandfather and a member of family. And he's in a better place now. Every time I go out and bike or run or out and about, I know he's watching over me. I feel great about that. And, you know, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I weren't for him, for his, all of his guidance and all of the conversations that we've had. They've played a lot. And I cherish and value our relationship. And I just want to say thank you, Grandma and Grandpa, for all the inspiration and the love and the guidance that you've provided. And, you know, even though I'm not related by blood and stuff, I was apprehensive, you know, after going through a very tough divorce and, you know, when my dad met Kristen. You know, I was hesitant at first to introduce someone in my life, you know, someone is that close. And I just want to say I'm so blessed to have Kristen and Grandma and Grandpa in my life. And you truly are family. And Grandpa, I just want to say thank you so much for all the support and the guidance. May God bless you.
Drop down. Hi, my name is Kathy Meyer. I'm a classmate of Steve's. We sang in a cappella choir together and we're good friends. And something you said, Tom, reminded me about the car. Wasn't it blue? The car? Steve picked me up one time. We dated for a short while, and I don't remember how long. But I remember one time he picked me up and I opened the car door and I got in it. And there was lemon meringue pie stuff all over the dash, everywhere in the car. Steve had delivered pies for his dad that were in a rack, and he stopped quickly, and the pies were on the dash. And Steve kind of, you know, as you can hear Steve chuckle, oh, sorry, Kath. He's wiping off the stuff on the dash. I get in the car and I'm kind of like, okay, and you wanted to go, what is this guy about? I don't know, but thank you for, I had forgotten about that. Anyway, listening to all of you today, and when the high school class of celebrated their 50th anniversary, it was the first time I had seen Steve in a long time. We renewed our friendship then. And then we began planning the MHS class of 67's 50th reunion. And I asked if I could be of help. And so we started working on that. And with several of our other classmates, and it was a joy to do that. It was a wonderful class. It still is. We have so many friends. We keep in touch with each other. And I've become aware in all of that time, as all of you have said today and shared, and it is so true, from not a family member, but a classmate. He had a gift, and he had a gift of making all of us feel that you were his best friend, right? Y'all know that, I can see it in your face. He made you feel special, he made you feel cared about, he knew how to do that, and he was sincere in doing it. There was nothing phony about Steve. And tomorrow at our church, I sing in a church choir, and we're losing our director of music after 23 years, and I was on the call committee to call the man. And something we all sang, and we're going to sing tomorrow, is a closing sending prayer. And after every rehearsal on a Wednesday night and all special occasions, we sang this. And as I was getting ready this morning, I live in Woodstock, I felt gobsmacked, like, oh my gosh. I'm going to bring this prayer, this sending prayer. And it's not about sending you all in a Christian way, though certainly it is about God. I want you right now to look at the picture and look at Steve's eyes, and I want you to hear his voice, because I believe that Steve would be saying this to each and every one of you, not only in this room, but all of the friends that couldn't be here today, and the family members and those who love him. We're all grieving, and we are, for our whole lifetime, we'll think of stories and often be touched by a memory and a moment that comes to mind about how Steve joked with us, how Steve cared about us, how he talked about other people in the way that I'm concerned about this person, I'm concerned about that person. And so I want you, if you want to close your eyes or look at the picture and look at Steve, I want you to hear his words. And this is what I believe Steve would say to all of you. As you go on your way, may God be with you. May he go before you to show you the way. May he go behind you to encourage you, beside you to befriend you, above you to watch over, and within you to give you peace. And we normally close with, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And peace be with all of you. Thank you.
Well, we've heard a lot, and I can't thank all of you for your wonderful words. We are making a videotape, and there's many people that were not able to attend, many because of COVID, many because of Columbus Day weekend, having to get their boats out of the water up in Michigan, many reasons. But I really appreciate your coming and sharing all your stories. It meant a lot to us and our family. And I'm sure a lot of our friends learned stories they never knew. So thank you all, and now we're closing.
Way